Chainsaw Man meets Men in Black. That's it. That's Aliens Area. It's not often we get a sci-fi shonen series, let alone an amazing one with great characters, amazing world building, and some incredible art to make it all the better. But that's exactly what we got here. Written and illustrated by Fusai Naba, Aliens Area decides to take everything modern shonen trends have been doing and flip them on their head. Instead of fighting demons, they're fighting aliens. Instead of using magic or jutsus or whatever else, they're using highly advanced tech. Now don't get me wrong, a lot of this plays out in the same way. Just because they're called aliens doesn't mean they don't act and feel like demons. But it's refreshing to get a series with its own unique aesthetic and vibe, and I can't get enough of it. Only problem is, it's cancelled. Yeah, well, it's been cancelled since October of 2022, so, I am kind of late to it. But man, what an absolute waste to cancel this series. I haven't read the other works from Fusai Naba, but it's clear this guy's been trying to write his epic sci-fi story multiple times at this point. And just when it seems he's hit his stride, it gets cancelled again. Let's talk about it. But first, please remember to subscribe to the channel if you like the video, as it really does help us out. Now, what's Aliens Area about? Aliens Area follows Tatsumi, a third-year high school student trying his best to provide for his younger siblings. Part of how he provides for them is by balancing his school life with his part-time job at a ramen shop. Problem is, he's been more of a hassle lately. His right arm has been unsteady, making something as simple as washing dishes an arduous task. But what's especially strange is after he cuts his hand on a broken bowl, Tatsumi's hand heals in an instant. He explains how the healing has been a thing ever since he was stuck in a house fire, and no doctor has been able to resolve the issue. His day gets even stranger, as after visiting the hospital, Tatsumi's confronted by a police officer called Hajime Sharaku, investigating the fire from 6 years ago. Tatsumi refuses to talk to the man, not wanting to involve himself in more strangeness, and heads on home. It's unfortunate then that when he does get home, he's confronted with two strangers in his apartment. What's even weirder are their eyes. They're giant and inhuman, so much so they look like they're part of a costume, but this is no play. With a touch of one of the stranger's fingers, an entire wall is crushed to pieces. At that moment, Tatsumi's right arm loses control, and this time, it starts shedding off its skin, revealing an oily black layer underneath it. It turns out that 6 years ago, when Tatsumi was trapped in the house fire, he had seen a beam of light from the exit. That beam was a strange outer space energy that embedded itself into him, and these strangers are aliens looking to take it back. And just as things had gotten bad, they get worse. Tatsumi's younger siblings come back from school and are immediately captured by one of the aliens. Now that they've seen their faces, they must die as well. Tatsumi races towards them as fast as he possibly can, but still, he's too slow. It all seems hopeless. Another tragedy to add to Tatsumi's list. But then this happens. His right arm, shedded and now oily black, had reached the killer. It had stretched outward, bending in whirls before smacking the alien back at incredible speeds, before finally coiling back into place. And just when he thought he was safe, the other alien hits him from behind, threatening to end all their lives then and there. But before any more damage could be done, Sharaku, the police officer from before, puts it all to an end by beating him, electrocuting him, and using gigantified rubber bands to imprison him. Seems practical. It turns out Sharaku is no regular police officer, but actually part of an alien detective force looking to take down aliens and find any victims around the same time Tatsumi was in his house fire. Sharaku gives Tatsumi two options. One, he can erase his memory and go back to the way he was living before. Or two, he can join him in preserving the coexistence between aliens and Earthlings. Obviously, he chooses to join him, and together they go about doing exactly that. So, that's basically the setup for everything you need to know about what Aliens Area is all about. It's a pretty standard introduction with some subtle touches that I think elevates it beyond your standard shonen manga. Now, I know what you're thinking. Why am I talking about a manga that's just been cancelled? Well, that's because Aliens Area wasn't cancelled because it wasn't good. It was cancelled because, well, it's sci-fi. And unfortunately, that's not as trendy as supernatural stuff. I genuinely believe if it was called Demons Area instead of Aliens Area, the series would still be going on today. But look, I'm not delusional. I don't think that we're going to somehow resurrect Aliens Area from this one video. But this isn't to talk about why you need to read a cancelled manga. This is to talk about why you need to look out for whatever the hell Fusai Naba makes next. Let's get into it. I think it's pretty obvious to say that the most important thing to get right in a story are the characters. You could have the most interesting plot in the world, but if no one cares about your characters, they're not going to care about what happens in it. It's a good thing then that 20 chapters in, Fusai Naba has proven to be excellent at this. Tatami certainly has all the makings of a traditional shonen protagonist. He's incredibly loyal and earnest to a fault, with a temptation to be brave and protective at the cost of his own life. You've seen this in Deku and Asta and pretty much every other shonen protagonist out there, but what I like about Tatami is that he's actually really quiet. No, this isn't a hate raid on Asta and Deku, I actually really like them, but there's something to be said about a protagonist that's a little more calm than your standard. He's a lot like Ichigo in that sense, where he can be aggressive when he's passionate, but he's mostly a melancholic character with a standard dream and goal. He doesn't want to be the #1 legend of all time, he just wants to take care of his family. It's a simple goal that anyone can connect to, and it makes it really hard to not root for him. Shariku is a strange character that I fell in love with almost immediately. He's a bit like Urahara, L, and Makima all into one, which I know sounds insane, but it's true. This guy is basically what if the typical shonen protagonist I mentioned before were a little more jaded and deranged, and it's so fun to read. He's completely insane and scary in a fight, but then he's basically a child taking naps in his day-to-day. This archetype is one of my favorites, so it is no surprise that I love him so much. But what was surprising to say was how much I would love everyone else in Foreign Affairs 5. Everyone here gets so much time to flesh themselves out, and it's a lot of fun to read about them. They feel like a real family with the strange bond they share, even though they're so different to one another. I love this moment where Tatami is tasked with finding the nest of an alien creature in this swamp yard in extreme heat. Worst of all, he has to do it himself. And instead of complaining about it, Tatami just tells them to hang out in the shade as he does it. After a bit of time, they try to make him take a break, but he refuses until the job is done. So, being the people that they are, they make excuses to get in the swamp with him and exhaust themselves trying to hunt down the nest. It's so hard to not fall in love with these guys so quickly when they put themselves in ugly situations to help out another member of their team. Them also making strange excuses so that he won't get in trouble just makes it all the more adorable. There's a real friendship here and I love every moment of it. Shariku isn't exempt from this either. He too has some really damn cute scenes with the team. I especially love this moment where he's asleep at his desk and Tatami tries to wake him up. Only after calling his name does Shariku open his eyes and immediately he tries to gaslight him by claiming he wasn't asleep at all. Miwa, another member of the team, jumps into Shariku's defense by throwing legal jargon like innocent until proven guilty, and Shariku says, without hard evidence, you've got nothing. It's just so good and fun, and every moment with this team is my favorite moment in this entire series. There are so many writers that wish they had character dynamics as fleshed out and interesting as these guys, and this was a series that was cancelled only 20 chapters in. Why? It's so frustrating. Anyway, let's move on to more positives. Another thing I love about Aliens Area is how mature this series really is. There are a lot of fights here, and I'll talk about them in a bit, but I really like how the solutions to a problem are hardly ever just punching the bad guy. In the swamp yard that I mentioned earlier, it's revealed that the alien nearby is actually a passive creature looking to live peacefully. They simply mention to the alien that it could be harming the plant life in the area, and it gets off with a simple warning. A similar situation happens with a parking violation of a UFO. We find out that the typical UFOs we know in pop culture are actually the result of wonky memory erasure tech, so those are the ones people look for, but actual UFOs can be as simple as a telephone booth. It's both a really neat world building detail and also just a really cute nod to Doctor Who. The alien who pilots that ship returns and apologizes since he didn't know. Unfortunately, they're still going to ticket him for the violation, and just when things look like they're about to boil over into a fight, they warn him of breaking the law, and once again, it's all resolved. No fight needed. I love how mature everything is whilst also being completely insane and weird. Like, yeah, a parking violation of a UFO is really dumb, but also it's really damn funny and interesting when you read it. Plus, the fact that the fights are so spread out makes it so that when you do get to an epic fight scene, it feels even more epic. So let's talk about that. Let me get one criticism out of the way and then I'll go straight back to gushing about this series. Yes, this manga can have some wonky panels that can be a little bit confusing to understand, but they are few and far between. There's also a certain bug-eyed look to these guys which isn't my personal favorite, but considering what this story's about, I also think it's partly intentional. Now, that being said, I also think this manga looks absolutely incredible with some of the best designs you'll ever see. Naba balances his art to have a grounded realism to to it, while still having the craziest looking creature designs. The inspirations to other works are evident, but I love how horrific he makes them look. It's genuinely unnerving to see at times, but also placing them in really funny situations just makes it impossible to not laugh. But the thing I love the most about Naba's art has to be the way he displays powers. Tatsumi is basically Gear 4th Snake Man Luffy with arms that stretch and bend at random joints, and it's so gross but so epic too. I'd say it's basically what if Luffy was in Tokyo Ghoul's world. That's what I mean. But the person I love to see in action the most is Shariku. Shariku's main ability is zero gravity. Obviously this means he can float, but the thing I love the most about it is how he negates damage. Here we see him getting hit by an alien who was previously shown to throw a rock so hard it could destroy an entire tree. So a punch from that alien would probably kill you immediately, unless you had zero gravity. With zero gravity, Shariku basically turns into the Tasmanian devil. He's weightless, so the force from the blow just disperses the energy and causes him to spin. That is until he turns the zero gravity off, and suddenly all that weightlessness turns into a massive amount of kinetic energy, leading to a massive blow. I just love all the concepts of this series, and the artwork makes it a billion times better to read. I really can't get enough. And that leads us to the end of the video. Aliens Area is such a home run, and I'm so sad it was cancelled. Chainsaw Man is one of my all-time favorite series, so know that when I compare it to it, I do not say that lightly. Of course I love Chainsaw Man more, but you know, I'm comparing a cancelled series to one that's gotten to at least finish one of its parts. Yeah, it's unfair. So yes, I am sad that this manga is over, but I don't consider this to be complete loss, at least not forever. Fusai Naba has all the makings of a goated mangaka. All he needs now is for people to read his next big work. I really hope he takes from Aliens Area and keeps it going. I don't care if he literally rips everything here and just changes it from aliens to demons. I just know that he's someone who can deliver, and I'm there no matter what. So that's the video. Thank you so much for watching, and if you liked it, please remember to subscribe as it really does help us out. I hope I convinced any of you guys to check out anything from Fusai Naba. But for those who've read Aliens Area, what did you think of it? Should I check his other mangas out too? And finally, what other manga or anime do you want to see me cover on this channel? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks guys.